Hi there, and welcome to the Curious Collective podcast, conversations designed for the veteran and first responder community to bring awareness to those holistic practices that help us live our best life. Tap into the wisdom and knowledge of our guests to heal, transform, and live as your true soulful self. Welcome, listeners. I have with us today the amazing Alex. Welcome, Alex.
Hey, thank you for having us. Appreciate it.
So, Alexander Kenny, there is a funny story about how we actually finally met. There is a good mutual friend of ours whose name's Stefan. We call him Dutchy. He's actually episode number 64 on the Curious Collective podcast, if you want to go back and have a listen. But he had been telling me for months about this amazing mate of his and business partner, Alex. You've got to meet him. We're doing this work together. We're doing that work, sending me videos and snippets about it. And I'm like, I know, I really need to meet this guy. But it never actually turned out. And I would say about 3 or 4 months ago, I was on the Gold Coast on a workshop that had nothing to do really with the work that we both do. And it just so happened that I saw this guy, and he wasn't even at the workshop. He joined his partner for one of the days to come in and see what she was doing and get involved. And I saw him doing this particular exercise that the facilitator had given him, and he was doing it with every fiber of his body. Not only did I witness him, but I felt the energy of what he was doing when I saw him. And I'm like, who is this guy? Like, exuding this embodied masculine power. And so I actually followed him out into the car park after the exercise. We were on a break, and I went up to him, and he was with his partner, and I'm like, who are you? Like, I need to meet you. That was amazing what I just witnessed. And the conversation sort of rolled on from there. And we were talking for quite a while. And we uncovered within that initial conversation, he was the Alex that Dutchy had been telling me, that I had to meet and connect with. So we have been connecting ever since. And luckily today, for all of our listeners, we have the honor of having him here on the podcast. So I'm going to start with my opening question to you. Alex, welcome. And what is it that you are doing in the world right now?
That's an awesome introduction. I appreciate that. So yeah, straight to the point. Like what I do is unleash people's genius. So what is innately already in people with their natural talents and how they can turn it into strengths in like multiple
So,
contexts, like business, families, intimate relationships, teams, like conflict resolution. Anyone who's growth minded that actually wants to unleash like what's already inside them and focusing on what's right about them. Yeah.
they're my favorite type of people, actually. The growth mindset people, the ones that are thirsty for it, but just not sure on the steps to take. So this blueprint, I guess, that you're using, that I've had experience through Dutchy and yourself, and my eyes opened fully to the world. What do you love the most about it that you're doing, like that you work with it, and how did you find it?
Yeah, okay. So how I found it was I was on a Facebook forum and I was like sharing my thoughts without like free of charge about different things. And one guy messaged me and said like, "Have you got like a strategic like strength?" And I never had anyone ever ask me that question about like what my strengths are because I come from a sport background, a construction background, mining as well, and it's all about like what you can do and like what you can physically do in jobs and roles and stuff. So as soon as he asked me that question, I just said, "How do I know what my strengths are?" And he's told me like about the CliftonStrengths profile. And as soon as he sent the link to me, I just went straight onto it, got my results, and it was such a a positive initiation because it focused on everything that's right about me. And Australia's like very strong with tall poppy syndrome. Do you know what I mean? Like it's like what like cutting people down. Yeah, oh, you're really good at that. Yeah, but let's focus on your weakness and that stuff. So basically, it was so profound for me, like because of how many people have misread me or misunderstood me or projected what's wrong all the time. So because of my like I can be quite intense or quite direct or like honest and people don't really want that and they might see that that's a problem. So being told all the things that are wrong with me a lot of my life when I got the profile, I was like, wow, I've literally never had anyone sit down with me and actually articulate and identify how I can unleash my highest potential. So that's how I found
Yes.
strengths. And I'm like, I want people to understand this. And then I'm like, now it's, like 6 years later, like aggressively studying this, researching this, using this with all my clients is you can actually dissolve conflict and stuff with it too. That's why I really love this stuff because it's about relationships and
Mm.
teamwork ultimately.
I love it. I want to dive a little bit more into that, but before we do, like, I want to shine back a little bit of light on something you said. Like, I love your intenseness and your directness. Like, that's something that I respond well to because I like that. So, for people that have been told that they are this and then seen that as a negative, but then were to perhaps do a blueprint of strengths and find out that this is actually something that's quite good for them, how would they utilize or dive deeper into, through the work that you do, the strengths that they do have, say, in their top 5 or 10?
Yes, so it's a good question, especially because the community of first responders that are listening to this is that there's probably like a very assertive, highly competitive, like, leadership A-type personalities that are like drawn to these like industries and fields. So, how to best manage it is like, first of all, identifying what your combination is. And, it's either going to be dormant or underactive, like not really claimed it, or it could be overcompensating and like that's the impact on other people where it could be a little bit over. So yeah, people with high influence that like if you're not in center, like if you're a little bit overreactive, or overcompensating using these certain strengths can really be destructive in like culture or teams and stuff like that. So it's about finding like what is my center, my integrated of all my top 10, top 15, and that's the journey. That's the conversations I have ongoingly is like identifying your profile first and then like unpacking where are you at with those each one and then how do we get you into the center so that you're actually a huge positive influence and actually inspiring people versus like
Mm.
dismantling their nervous systems, which I know you understand that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. And I guess using me as an example, right? Sometimes my positivity annoys people,
Yeah.
but it's a strength of mine and it actually aligns really beautifully with the work I do. Could you shine
Yes.
a bit of light on that as an example?
Yeah. So yeah, so your positivity is number one from memory for you. And like
Mm.
it can like to talk about that, like, yeah, it can actually come across as like naive that like everything's positive and that there's no problems and I don't want to talk about problems. And but the thing is that when everyone's like in like a really depressed, dark, negative mindset, is that you can shed light. You actually will be the person who like brings positive hope and possibility that is not there usually without your presence. Even this podcast, for example, like, bringing positive energy to the world through these conversations is like, it's no wonder you're doing this. And you actually would be bringing positive perspectives to people that there's possibilities out there. There's people that can help you heal stuff, grow stuff. So yeah, just in real time, like, yeah, your positivity is literally in action right now, having positive conversations like this one. No doubt people listening to this wherever they are right now, oh, there's some positive conversations happening. So it's actually your influence is actually going out and influencing people. And then, yeah, what can happen is that if you're in a team or if someone's just talking about problems or like something that needs to be addressed, is the positivity actually might be like, I don't want to engage in this conversation because it's not positive. So I'm just going to look over here. What's positive? What's the rainbows? What's fun? And that's the maturity of positivity is to like once we address this problem, it will be more positive. And that's the maturity of it is like to be sitting in the discomfort of the uncomfortable problem conversation and then like like bringing to another positive solution to once we get to the solution. And that's the art. That's the integration, that part.
Yeah, I love it. What about in your top 5? Which would you have found as being the most challenging for you to sort of embody and really love about yourself?
Yeah. So I redid mine after 6 years, like about 5 days ago. And like Gallup actually suggests that you don't do that. But I've like growth is a high value of mine. So the last 9 years I've been very aggressive in men's work and had coaches and I still have coaches and mentors. And so like Gallup actually says that if you have had significant trauma or a traumatic event, that can actually shift the way you think, feel, and act, which is manifests as your talent. So because I've been doing it quite aggressively with healing childhood stuff that's happened and other events that have happened in my life, is that and knowing what my talents are the last 6 years, I've been really been like developing them. So to answer your question, they've only recently changed, but my number one has gone to number three, and it is command, which is the rarest talent. It's actually what Dutchy has as well. And no doubt, like a lot of your listeners in first responding, like, leadership, like they're actually
Mm,
really good at like making decisions in chaotic, like chaos. They're very, they like that
yeah.
they actually thrive in making decisions. And the thing is that like not everything is chaotic. Like, like we could be at a family meal and, the need for command is to break through and make decisions and have conflict and to get to harmony. And the thing is that not everything is like a normal relationship or in a corporate environment, it's not like a war situation. So that's the part
Mm,
the projections can come at you like, we don't need you, you're too intense, you're too much. What that can do is you can actually become demoralized and apathetic even. And I've had those thoughts, like I've had to really conquer those myself because I used to be a goalkeeper. He played for Australia, went through England when I was 16 years old. We won schoolboys when I was 16 and the whole of Australia. So I was needed to make decisions as a goalkeeper, like and like
yeah.
with my team. So it's been a challenge to my growth has been all around like my tone, my nervous system regulation. Like if I'm a little bit off center, it really does like impact people because what I think is like 2% of me sharing frustration, other people's nervous system feel like 80-90% like anger. And that's the part that
Mm,
is being responsible for that amount of like influence and power and tone of voice that it can really rattle other people's nervous systems who are like very sensitive with empathy and harmony. Like this person's creating conflict. So yeah, it still is my pathway and also like aiming me in the right direction is probably the other part that Dutch is really helping me with his strategic, strength and also his military background
mm,
is aiming me into conversations with CEOs that like the conflict that needs to be addressed with these guys in such a respectful way to provide them clarity. So, yeah, it's an ongoing thing. And just knowing that helps everyone.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I love those tangible examples you've just given. And especially, I'm thinking about this veteran first responder community and their relationships, not only in the household with the family, but also into team relationships. I know a lot of the trauma that's coming out of, say, police and places like that is not feeling supported within the team, within the organization, within the politics of it all, and not feeling supported from above. And these sorts of things that you and Dutch are doing, where you're going in and using your strengths to work with teams to find out what theirs are and how they all interact together. That's fucking powerful work.
And the thing is that like everyone knows about like respect when they say about respect, but like I'd love to talk about respecting our unique differences and focusing on what is right about that behavioral trait. And like you
Mm,
can do the same behavior, but like can you see it from the like the positive like impact or like the positive influence that the same behavior traits having, and then just aiming it in the right direction, giving the right tasks to this person, removing them from certain tasks as well, because they could be like strengths. Like it's been around, I'm pretty sure, for like at least, well, 50 years of research, but 20 years in America. Like 90% of the Fortune 500 companies use Gallup strengths. It's almost like Australia's like
Mm,
20 years behind or 10 years behind, is that they understand that when you focus on what's right about someone, it's actually directly connected to engagement, and engagement's directly connected to productivity, which is profits, like in a business
mm,
context. And then in a personal relationship context, it's like I feel seen, heard, appreciated, respected, acknowledged for these traits versus you're too intense, you're too impatient, you're too direct, you're insensitive to
mm.
me, all these different things that literally pull marriages, families apart, like teams apart, is not looking at what's
Yeah.
right about that behavior and developing those things so it's beneficial for the individual and the team.
Yes. And what I also really love is I did an intensive with Dutchy with mine, and it's not, yes, it is focusing on what's right and the strength and really building that up, but it also does show you the shadow side, or, the dark light, whatever we talk, feminine, masculine, of each strength as well, where you can deep dive into what the negative, perhaps, connotations of that particular strength could be in a situation where you're in conflict, or in discomfort with something. And I loved that. That was my favorite part, because I'm like, I crave learning and evolving and changing and growth, and so I like that was my favorite part.
Yeah, it makes sense because you've got connectedness number two. And that's all about integration and like connecting dots. Like this piece of information connects to that, and then okay, instantly a new brain synapse is firing around integration and seeing the big picture and seeing people as a mind, body, and soul. And so, like, I'm guessing that you naturally do that with people that like your clients, is that they like come in, they start talking about these symptoms here, and your connectedness will naturally see and explain to them the dots, and so to see that, like, yeah, just connect the dots of like, yeah, there is blind spots of the talents as well. And that's usually the
Mm.
parts that sabotage us. So it's identifying all.
Yeah, yeah. It's so good to have the blueprint there to go, oh, that's why. And your knowledge as well of it is exponential, and the passion behind it. I recently did a workshop that was run by yourself and Dutchy down in northern New South Wales, and it was around your relationship with yourself and relationship with others in relation to strengths. And I remember you just remembered everyone's strengths and were just talking through them in everything. It's like, how did this become so ingrained in you where you just see it now when you're talking to people? Is that one of your strengths?
Yeah, yeah. Um, yeah, that's a good question. So because of my sporting background, and like I've actually got competition in my top five strengths, is it's actually quite aggressive, and it's always about like it's very aware of what everyone's doing, and the gap, and where the edge is, where the gaps are to win, dominate, like conquer whatever the task is. So I guess for me, I'm quite aggressive, and I've also got other talents like achiever, strategic, which is like effective pattern recognition and how do I get results. And so I guess my whole life purpose is to work with leaders and teams and relationships that actually want to work through things. And so I guess the biggest driver is I know what it's like to be misunderstood. And
Mm,
it's like when someone gets upset and I can see their profiles, it's as clear as day. Like for me, it's like there's probably an arrogant part of me or like confident part that's like I can actually see, like it's like cracking the code in blueprint terminology of why two people are being misunderstanding each other, which just turns into conflict. So I just know what
Mm,
it's like to be misunderstood, and I also understand what it's like when we understand these things. You just dissolve misunderstandings instantly. So I
mm,
guess it's like
mm,
if I'm going to offer uh, or focus on being useful and valuable in my highest purpose, it's actually on guiding leaders and teams on how to do that. So I want to make sure I'm all over this. So it's a very high value of
mm,
mine to master my craft and use it in real time, but also show the value for other people to get it, like to actually get the
mm,
experience of being gotten. And then when you've got that level of connection of understanding the person in front of you, then it's like, okay, now aim that into your relationship with someone when you're having
mm,
conflict.
mm,
But it's not
mm.
just a
Do you feel
fluffy,
as well,
yeah.
like knowing your own strength profile and your blueprint and doing all the men's work that you've done, and I know Dutch is the same, he's ever evolving, and those that you work with, the more you know yourself, the easier it is to interact with others. So sometimes when you're perhaps working in these group spaces, do you see that by enlightening people on how they present and what's happening for them, that perhaps that makes their interactions easier?
Oh, 100%. Like in workshops, like what usually happens is someone will say something and it's their perspective. And I just go, exactly. Of course you're going to say that because of your, strategic insights and because you're always seeing three things at the same time. And so for them, it's like, yeah, I do see three possibilities at the same time. So it's like and then like someone else shares something and it's like harmony, and they just looking for like how do we connect and get along together. Like I don't want conflict, I don't want to like upset anyone, I don't want to ruffle anyone's feathers, I just want us to get along. So
Mm,
they're probably their lens is focusing on like how do we connect and have a good relationship here, and this person's strategy over here, is that actually going to upset someone else over here? So this person strategically could bring in an idea, but then the harmony person might be like, yeah, but like, have you considered this person's ideas and that person's like they could be trying to keep
mm,
the peace. So it's just in real time. These are the things, the interpersonal, like subtle nuances in how we think, feel, and act, but mainly communicate, that like just this is the whole conflict part that happens,
mm.
because the chance of someone having your top five talent order is 1 in 33,760,000 and something. I don't have analytical in my strengths. So the people who have that
Yeah.
high analytical that are thinking like, what is the specific number? Like, I want to know. You can look it up. You can look it up in a calculator or on the website, but it's basically 1 in 34 million, around that number, of
Mm.
the uniqueness of your top five, which means that's the uniqueness of how you see, how you communicate. It's actually a miracle we can even communicate, really. Like,
I know we communicate so well. I wonder what makes our strengths work so well.
it's
I've actually loved what you and Dutchy have done for me. I've dragged my strengths profile into the back of all the content I create, and I ask, aligned with my strengths and my audience, how can I best communicate this? Boom! I'm like, oh, you've just like picked it from my brain.
exactly. Yeah, so that we both have connectedness. It's like we both see the big picture, and we both see like an organism of like a team, or also like an organization, or like a culture, and even humankind. So there's like we naturally are gonna like sync at that level of understanding of like how do we integrate things, and just the conversation around nervous system, and then like bringing a podcast to first responders and people that it's currently serving, like them learning about this to then help them feel calm in their roles and their families. Like you and I just get that naturally, and it's our gift is to,
Yeah.
to share and talk, and to the people that can't connect the dots. Yeah.
Yeah, what I'd really love to ask you is if there are people that have been a little bit intrigued by our conversation, or they're a bit curious and they're like, oh, what even is this? Like, but we want them to try it. Like, what's your advice for them?
Well, so I'm independent to Gallup. So like internationally certified as a strengths coach. The best thing to do is just to get your profile. So I don't get any money out of telling anyone to do it. But like the first thing is like understand and name, like identify your talents. There's plenty of different profiles out there. I know I've been looking at profiles for over 20 years, and this is the fastest, most effective one that I've seen that is like extremely engaging. So,
Mm,
even just as an exercise, like something, my suggestion is like if anyone who's in a relationship, like do the profile, get them, sit down and actually just like unpack it and see like, hey, is this how I come across to you? And then like, yeah or no, and like, have that conversation and actually see for yourself. And it's like an experience of wow, this actually captures how I think, feel, and act. So, doing it with someone who
mm,
knows you, that and getting their insight reflecting with the words on the screen or the paper, like that's the best way to measure how accurate something is with people that know you. So yeah, that's my suggestion
mm.
is like try it out for yourself.
Yeah, I love that. And I mean, I've even tried, mine and my collaborative business partner, one of them is we put ours together, like the two of us, Petra and myself, and our top 10 are completely different, but we work together because we didn't know, we knew why because we feel it, but we came to Alex and Dutchy and we're like, how does this even work? And you just pointed out some really valuable insights for us. I'm like, oh,
And that's the part like the top five, if I use my hand for example, is like naturally we're gonna be like the star parts, like pointing out, and like for example, I've got like low context, low analytical themes just off the top of my head, and so being in a teammate with teammates that have high analytical, high context help me communicate better when I meet new people. And that
mm,
was what I was working with you on this, podcast is like introducing like context. That's all the past. I'm going this way. And so the differences, like the differences actually are the cogs that actually make the leveraging to make it a really powerful, like synergistic, cogs in the wheel. And that's the part that
yeah,
I love about it is that it's not like about me developing context, but just being clear that I need help with that part of the relationship of being more effective together. And when like
yeah.
it goes right to like having uncomfortable conversations, giving feedback through the strengths lens can dissolve so much emotional reactivity, and so you have the freedom to give the feedback really fast because you're focusing on what's right about people. And that's
Yeah.
actually one of favorite ways to use it is and to train leaders is like giving the feedback that they don't want to give in real time through their strengths lens.
Mm.
And then people are more open and receptive. And also it creates psychological safety, which is a culture of like, let's focus on what's right about each other. So I absolutely love it.
Oh, geez. I love that psychological safety part. And I can actually see, I've never seen you and Dutchy face to face in action in the corporate space, but I'm so proud every time I see you guys put a post up. I'm like, yes. But I can see by highlighting in a safe space, perhaps the things that a leader of a team is showing up as, and the team are seeing that as something that is just like uncomfortable, or he's too much of this, he's too much of that. But then shining a light on that, I just see everyone's shoulders soften a bit and a bit more space coming into the body, and then a bit more receptivity to be able to have conversations they perhaps couldn't have before. I'm like, wow.
Yeah, that's it. I love that. I love that you pointed that out because there's a huge thing around psychological safety. It's a big conversation coming in of like how do we create psychological safety? How do we create safety to speak up? And these are just like these are great. This is the reason why talented people leave teams. This is why people leave
Yeah.
relationships is that they might get the feedback through like a fight or like an explosion of their nervous system, like through their mouth of the things that they didn't say because they didn't feel safe to say them earlier. And
Mm. Mm.
that's that's not healthy. Like that's why people literally have like are in courts and can't see their kids and leave
Mm.
organizations like this. If we can master like the art of like giving uncomfortable feedback fast and respectfully and calmly through the lens of what's right, you can actually dissolve a lot of these things.
So much, yes. So
Yeah.
before we part ways, I would love to hear more about the work you, Dutchy, and the team are doing at Shoshinri and what your vision is for this, for the corporate spaces that you're moving into.
Yeah. So our main focus is strengths-based cultures. And that's starting with like, the leaders obviously getting the buy-in, like seeing that the value of and experiencing being gotten through their strengths profile. So number one is working with leaders who have teams and organizations for them to get the one-on-one strengths claiming session. And then from there, we love working with the like strengths-based leadership teams. So people that have teams underneath them is working with themselves, like understanding their own strengths, and then getting teams in the same room and doing team strengths workshops. So they're like the two main ones. But my favorite thing, which is my specialty as well, is two-on-one conflict resolution. And it's like,
Oh,
I use
yes.
it's a very innovative way of like resolving conflicts between people. And as soon as I get the profiles out and talk about what's going on, I've had people who hate each other or thinking about divorcing each other or leaving an organization literally laugh at the ridiculousness of the differences. And then as two adults, I go, okay, how do you navigate this for the win-win for you guys? So
Mm.
those conversations, they're my favorite because they're the ones that
I
like,
want to be a fly on the wall for that shit. That sounds amazing. Like, I really love, this might be one of my things in my strength. I really love difficult people. Like, difficult people are my favorite. I just want to get in front of them and like them to try their shit on me and me just, you know, soften with my skills till they're at a point where they're like, oh, okay, you're not so bad.
exactly. Well, and there could be like a collaboration in the future or something where like we work with people and actually understand and unpack what their differences are to get along. So I'm open for that. Putting the invitation out there.
Yeah, fun. It's because, let's just say, we waste too much energy on people that, we claim are don't get along with. It's like either find a way to get along with them by all this beautiful work that you're doing, or just cut them out of your life and crack on because there's too much goodness that you're missing out on here on earth by just holding on to all this resentment and all the heavy, yucky stuff.
And usually like from what I've seen is like it's the difficult people that like they don't realize how much influence and negative influence they're having. And so once they like really get that, they're actually the most positively influential
Yeah.
people in the whole team organization.
Yeah, yeah, and they shift the energy of the whole team
Exactly.
by awareness and shifting through it and choosing to change.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. Oh, so much goodness! I am looking forward to seeing more posts rolling out of you and Dutchy working your magic in all the spaces you can be in. But for those listeners that are interested in your one-on-one strengths claiming sessions, or even if you're working with a partner or someone within your team that you're really wanting to work something through with, reach out to Alex. He's amazing. I can vouch for that. And I perhaps we'll get you and Dutchy on in the future together, and we can
Yep.
talk about a specific topic that you guys are really amazing at. And how does that sound?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. I'd love to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Especially like
So before we say goodbye to our listeners, what is something else that you'd like to share before we go?
um I actually do have I've got some close friends that are vets, and obviously my business partner is a vet, and this archetype, this personality, like the strong, competitive, assertive sort of character, is someone that I actually really enjoy working with because they're usually very coachable when they get like, okay, this is a new way of doing something. And so I
Mm.
love to support like ex-athletes, vets. Like I personally love working with them because they can be with this my style, my energy, and they really feel support and guidance is actually coming from a really good place. So just personally, yeah,
Mm.
like just straight up that's the ideal people that I love to work with. And yeah, I guess just to leave you with a thought is like anytime someone like does something or says something, like just the invitation is to like focus on what is right about that person and even yourself, and how can you leverage your differences. That's all I want to say.
Yes, there's so much depth in that you could unpack in like 2 more episodes, but it's a beautiful seed to plant for people. And yeah, I highly recommend the strengths work. What we will do is anywhere where the show is posted in the show notes, we will have a link so that you can go on and do your Cliftons. I did mine. I have found so much value in it, and hence why we're having this conversation today. So thank you so much, Alex. I look forward to having you on the podcast in the future. Katie out.